Hey guys, this is God of Politics. Welcome to a brand new video, but before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But in today's video, I am discussing some very big news, and that is that Joe Biden's approval rating has absolutely tanked. I mean, regardless of your thoughts on Joe Biden, on my thoughts on Joe Biden, on anyone's thoughts on Joe Biden, this is very big news, and that's why I'm going to cover it, because we've seen for a while that Joe Biden has been above water. He's been above 50% approval for his entire presidency up until just a few weeks ago, actually just about a week ago now, and he had very solid numbers at the beginning. He was at plus 20 back just a couple weeks after he first came into office. That went down to Biden plus 10, approved plus 10 back in March. And it stayed pretty solid until a lot of what was going on right now. That includes the Afghanistan conflict, that includes what's happening with the COVID cases right now, and it has really not had a positive effect on Joe Biden's approval rating. For a day, he was actually in the disapproval side, and of course this has happened to every president. This has happened to Trump, who was underwater for his entire presidency. This happened to Obama, who was underwater for much of his presidency. This happened to Bush, who was underwater for most of his second term. This even happened it happened to most presidents, really. But the reason why it's such big news is because of the fact that these news events have been going on now, and it's been having a negative effect on him, and we're thinking of the electoral impacts that this is going to have. You know, if Biden becomes less popular, what happens to congressional Democrats? What happens to state-level Democrats? And that's why it is such big news, because the president's approval rating has a number of different implications. Number one, you've got the independents who now say, I don't like Biden anymore, I disapprove of him. You have the Democrats who say, I don't like him anymore, I disapprove of him. And while Democrats are not going to go out there and vote for Republicans, they may just not turn out in 2022, and that is a big worry for Democrats. And as for those independents I mentioned, they may go and vote for Republicans in 2022. Those are the people that gave Joe Biden the win in states like Georgia, in states like Wisconsin, in states like Pennsylvania, and they could easily lead to the Democrats' demise in 2022 if they can't get their act together and fix Joe Biden's approval rating. Because while, of course, other politicians are separate figures, they have their separate policies, they have their separate rhetoric, it is affected a lot by the president's approval rating. Now, in RCP, Biden is at plus 0.2 percentage points. He's at 48.2% approve, 48% disapprove, which, like I said, is higher than at any point during the Trump administration. But at this point, Democrats are going to need, a 4 percentage point popular vote win to win the House. They're going to need a 4 percentage popular vote win to win the presidency. And while those days are a long way out, you'd rather be where you were before than where you are now. So as I said, on RCP, he is at plus 0.2 percentage points. On 538, he's a little bit higher, but that is to be expected. 538 usually does have more of a Democratic bias, but he still clearly has become much less popular. He's gone from about Biden plus 8 or 9 to about Biden plus 3 within the month, really. And that has been fueled not just by, the usual suspects, Rasmussen and all those, Susquehanna, those kinds of polls, but it's been fueled by many polls who usually show very positive numbers for Joe Biden, polls with very favorable samples for the Democrats, and polls that are now showing not very good results for them. So we look at, for example, the Economist YouGov poll now shows Biden at a 50-50 approve-disapprove rating. We go back to their last poll here. They had 47-46, so they were at plus 1. Before that, it was at tied, and this is all within just the last couple of days. But if we go, say, a couple of weeks back, and we look for a poll from YouGov, we could see here he was at plus 4 before this, back in the beginning of August. We can see here he's at plus 2 at the end of July, and so you can see that there's a very clear decline here in his approval rating, and YouGov isn't even, the only poll that is showing this. Some polls have a much larger range in how much his approval rating has changed. Of course, you have Rasmussen, who's going to be showing negative numbers, but Rasmussen has shown more negative numbers than they have in many of their polls recently. They showed Biden in the positives, maybe a month ago or so. They showed Biden at plus 3 back in July, and then he fell to minus 9 in one of their recent polls. So I think it's pretty clear to see. You can see this in the RCP average, you can see it in 538 average, you can see it in individual polls, that Biden has been falling. And not only has his approval rating been falling, his disapproval rating has been going up. And so that's what we've seen for most of his presidency, where his approval rating stayed mostly stagnant. You can see here, in the time when his approval rating stayed pretty much stagnant, if not went up, his disapproval rating went up 6-7 percentage points. But at this point, his approval rating has also fallen, and that's now fallen below 50% here. And of course, you can contribute this, you can, I guess you could say, blame this on a lot of things for Biden. You could blame it on the resurgence of coronavirus domestically and the rocky withdrawal of U.S. military personnel and other Americans from Afghanistan ahead of Biden's looming deadline. Biden's approval rating slid 8 points in the CBS poll since July, and it's down 4 points since the last NBC News survey in April. It says the two surveys are consistent with other polls indicating the strong approval ratings with which Biden entered the Oval Office have waned. The latest Real Clear Politics average pegs Biden's approval and disapproval rating at the same number, 48%, while the 538 average, which adjusts numbers for polling firms with histories of bias, is more positive for Biden. Biden's average disapproval rating of 46% is higher than any point in his young presidency. So, of course, there are a lot of people on all sides bashing Biden for his Afghanistan response. You've got people in the more moderate establishment wing of both the Democratic and Republican parties bashing Biden. You've got the people in the more far right-wing part of the party bashing Biden just because they don't like Biden, and also because of the withdrawal. You know, they see it as a very negative way to withdraw. And you even have some people on the far left who were the most receptive to getting out of Afghanistan who are also attacking Biden. But what's probably most important and has the largest impact on Biden's approval rating is the media. And you've probably seen this if you've seen any CNN or MSNBC lately. They have both been attacking Joe Biden. They've been attacking him left and right. They've been attacking not only the way he withdrew, but the fact that he withdrew at all. And so you've had tumbling approvals in terms of not just Biden's approval, but the approval of getting out. And that is how important the media is. You can see the media in a lot of ways tanked Trump in 2020. They did attack him a lot. Now, you can have your opinions on whether those attacks were warranted, but had the media not attacked Trump as much as they did, Trump would have been in a much more solid position. And you're seeing the same thing here with Joe Biden, which is not something that he is used to, not something that many people on the Democratic Party are used to, and that is CNN and MSNBC attacking the Democrats. That's not something you see very much at all, just like you don't see Fox News attacking Republicans very often. And so they have had a very, very large impact on Biden's approval rating. I expect that his approval rating will go up a little bit more when he is being less attacked by the media, but there's also a lot of other factors that you have to consider. You've got the coronavirus, which is getting substantially worse here. You know, we were down at 10,000 cases. We're now at 150,000 cases a day in terms of 7-day average. So this is really not a situation that's getting better at the moment. We've got deaths which have gone from about 200 a day to 1,000 a day. They've gone up by 5 times. So we have a lot of big problems in this country at the moment. No matter how you look at it, there are problems, and they do have a large electoral impact. And the reason I'm talking about the electoral impact is because, you know, that's what my channel does. And so, you know, if Biden's approval rating goes down 5%, that takes a lot of these competitive races, which in some cases maybe tilt Democrats, say like Wisconsin, say like Nevada, say like Michigan. You could say in theory that these races are tilt Democrat. You know, Pennsylvania you can add tell us, Minnesota you can put at lean. You know, you can put Georgia at tilt. You can put New Hampshire at tilt. You can even put Kansas at tilt just for Republicans, or Arizona tilt for the Republicans, maybe even tilt for the Democrats. You know, if Biden's more popular, this becomes a more likely scenario. But if you get closer to the election and his approval rating tumbles even further, you get to a point where Wisconsin could flip, Nevada could flip, you could have Michigan flipping, Pennsylvania flipping, New Hampshire flipping. You could have Georgia staying with the Republicans. You could have Arizona staying with the Republicans. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 races right off the bat there that could easily go from the Democratic column to the Republican column. And that has a lot to do with Biden's approval rating. You see a similar thing at the Senate side where you could have, you know, you could have all of these races going to the Democrats. I know that, you know, maybe Georgia going to the Democrats is going to be very difficult to happen. Maybe North Carolina going to the Democrats is not going to be easy either. But let's just say all of these races do go to the Democrats. Democrats have 53 seats in this scenario, but they're all going to be close. We all know that these are going to be close races. If Biden's approval goes down slightly, these races could easily flip, and that is why I'm making a video about this, because Biden's approval is not only affected by a lot of things, but it itself affects a lot of other things. It affects the electoral impacts of Democrats at the state level, at the congressional level, and it's going to be a very, very interesting thing to see in the future whether his approval rating does continue to slide, whether it does start to go up again. It's going to be very, very interesting to see. I would bet that it starts to go up a little, but it's not going to get to the levels that it used to be. Biden is not a very popular president this time, and I don't think he will be for very, very long. He was quite popular in the beginning, not very popular anymore, and I don't think he's going to be very popular in the future. So thank you for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But again, guys, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys later.